I cannot communicate properly to you the utter and complete panic within MAGA about Kamala Harris. And they're right, given recent polls that we'll talk about in one of the segments today. But Trump himself has been posting a lot of messages indicating his panic. And also, he made a decision that we'll talk about that indicates the fear as well. And after discussing that, I'll show you Pete Buttigieg crushing Trump's decision here. But first, here is a post from Trump on Truth Social. We're not ready for a Marxist president, and lying Kamala Harris is a radical left Marxist and worse. You know, I keep saying this, I know it's getting repetitive, but on so many of these attacks, if this is what they're bringing forward as an attack, then we are in a good spot. If it's her laugh, as we're hearing, which almost no one resonates with that criticism, it's very, very strange. And I think actually makes people more fond of her, especially when they're attacking her for it. The J.D. Vance, childless cat lady type rhetoric is only alienating people further from the Republican Party. And then stuff like this. If you do the whole, oh, she's a Marxist, also not going to land. And that's a good thing. Before getting to other posts, I'll remind you of something we looked at recently. Trump saying this in a similar theme some time ago.
And by the way, Kamala will not be your first female president. She will not be your first female president. It's not the way it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to have a socialist. Look, we're not going to be a socialist nation. We're not going to have a socialist president, especially a female.
So Kamala Harris, according to Trump, is a Marxist, a socialist. And also, that would be bad if it were a man who is a socialist. But a female socialist? Now Trump really has a problem with it, okay? Wild. And of course, that's an wildly inaccurate characterization of the very mainstream policies that Kamala Harris is running on. Then he also posted this: crooked Joe Biden and lying Kamala Harris are a great embarrassment to America. There has never been a time like this. I understand that his nicknames are always childish, but this one is a strange one strategically, because he might seriously, factually, literally be the person in American politics historically who has espoused the most amount of verifiably false statements. He's more of a liar than anyone I could possibly think of, in politics or otherwise. And so saying Kamala Harris is bad because she's a liar, which of course he's basing that off of faulty arguments, but it's a tough one when you're notoriously a massive liar. He then posted this video as well.
Bidenomics is working. It's a term we're very proud of, I must tell you, because Bidenomics is working. It's working. Bidenomics. And Bidenomics is working.
All of this is part of our blueprint together for what America can be. This is Bidenomics.
That is called Bidenomics, and we are very proud of Bidenomics.
And the words on screen say, Harris owns Bidenomics. She made it happen. Sure. I want her to take credit for Bidenomics. Sentiment towards the economy has been improving because the economy has been improving. It's true, there's still a gap, and there's been a bigger one in recent years, between the reality of the handling of the economy by the Biden-Harris administration and people's feelings about the handling of the economy. But as these metrics get better and they're felt in people's lives, their sentiment towards the economy gets better. And we have these interesting examples of people will say in surveys the national economy is not doing well, but their own state economy is doing well. So where it matters, close to home, they acknowledge the improvements that have been made, but then zoom out and sort of more narrative-based ideas end up pushing people towards thinking things are going worse than they are. And it's not that people's pain isn't real. It's that the control that the Biden-Harris administration and Democrats in Congress have had over the very devastating conditions they had to inherit has been wielded very effectively. Given what could be done, really good things were done, and that's shown in the economic recovery that we talk about often. That's shown in our competitiveness with China and so many other things, our counterparts, how we match up to other comparable economies, etc., etc. This, I don't even know what the heck this is. Trump just posted this photo. Okay. And he also posted this about Biden's speech out of the Oval Office. Crooked Joe Biden's performance last night was dismal, and yet the other networks pretended he was the equivalent of the late, great Winston Churchill. Isn't it interesting that Trump describes both Winston Churchill as late, great, and Hannibal Lecter? Same title for both of those individuals. And he thinks they're both historical figures, it seems. The guy can't even talk. Fake news. And we'll talk about this more in Trump's speech that he delivered recently, where he made a similar point. I think the reason he doesn't understand why people are so complimentary of Biden's Oval Office address is not because the articulation of every phrase was the absolute best that it could be, but because the statements he was making were profoundly high integrity. He was delivering a message to the nation that he's choosing to put democracy, the country, the fate of our nation above his own political and personal ambition. And that is something that people are very complimentary of for good reason. So there's sort of your social media freak out. But then in his actions, he's showing how terrified, scared little Don of Kamala Harris, especially on debate stage, as we predicted. CNN reports after Vice President Kamala Harris accused former President Donald Trump of backpedaling on a debate. The Trump campaign said Thursday it would not commit to any future debates until the Democratic Party formally chooses a nominee. So the timeline goes something like Kamala Harris becomes the presumptive nominee. Trump says, oh, well, if we're going to debate, it can't be on ABC News as was previously scheduled with Biden because they're fake news, and I was fine with that with Biden, but now I'm not fine with it if it's Kamala Harris, but I would do it on Fox News. So then I'm pretty sure Fox News sent out invitations, and Kamala Harris has been saying that she's on board with debating. Again, I'm a little bit fuzzy on if the Fox News debate was a part of this yet, but regardless, then the Trump campaign came out and said, we won't agree to any debates until we know for sure that it's Kamala Harris, pushing the idea that Kamala's also going to drop off the ticket, and then, as they've been saying, Michelle Obama or something's going to be the candidate. I can tell you now, near certainly, Kamala Harris is going to be the nominee, and it's a good thing that she will be because of that polling. We're already, according to a Fox News poll, already the swing states, Kamala Harris is leading in some of them, and then within the margin of error in the others. So essentially the race is tied, and then Kamala's also leading in states like Minnesota, which if already the swing states are tied and certain national polls have her leading, and we still have a few months to introduce her to America because her perception has been really bad, her PR has been bad, which happens a lot to vice presidents. You only get attention if you do something bad. And she now has a whole campaign infrastructure around advocating on her behalf. I'm getting really confident by the day. Very, very confident. Kamala Harris is challenging Trump to debate. And like I said, we have Pete Buttigieg demolishing Trump over this in a second. But first, here's Kamala.
So many of you have been asking me about the debate, and I'll tell you, I'm ready to debate Donald Trump. I have agreed to the previously agreed upon September 10th debate. He agreed to that previously. Now it appears he's backpedaling, but I'm ready. And I think the voters deserve to see the split screen that exists in this race on a debate stage. And so I'm ready. Let's go.
Will you do it on Fox News?
Comment on the protest, yeah.
And she, as we demonstrated in a segment where we looked at past moments of her in hearings and in her debate with Mike Pence. I don't want to overhype it, because you know how Republicans would overhype Trump's ability to do things and way underhype. Now, the debate went as badly as it could have, but say the Union, for example, they would say he's barely going to be able to talk and he would do well. And the fact that he just did a solid job would make it seem way better because of the low bar that was set. So I don't want to do that where I set just such a low bar for Trump and a super high bar for Kamala Harris. My expectation would be, though, that she would crush Trump in a debate, which is why I really want it to happen and why he seems a little bit hesitant. But if the polls keep going in the direction that they're going, making Kamala more and more not just competitive but likely to do well in this election, I think Trump might feel forced into it for the sake of reaching voters and potentially swaying them. Quick pause from your viewing of this video to request that you subscribe if you're not already to this channel. We've heard some people saying that they'll subscribe and then check back later and they're unsubscribed. That's not good. So if you could make sure that you are subscribed, even if you think that you are, I would greatly appreciate it. Back to the video. And last thing before Pete Buttigieg, you had Josh Shapiro also calling on Trump to debate.
Now, gang, you could not have a clearer contrast in this race. You could not have a clearer contrast between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Now, let me tell you something. He's pretty afraid. Y'all see, he's backing out of the debate now. He's afraid to stand toe-to-toe with our vice president. And you know why that is? It's not just because she's a skilled debater. It's not just because she's got the right positions on the issues that matter most to the good people of Pennsylvania and this country. It's because he can't run away from his record any longer.
Yeah.
Think about it. 4 years as president. Guy stacks the NLRB with a bunch of corporate folks who have tried to rip away your rights every step of the way. We can't go back to that, and he can't defend that.
Yes. I am very motivated. And Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, is one of the people being floated as a potential running mate for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris responded to Sam Stein reporting on the Trump camp backing out of the debates. And Kamala Harris said, "What happened to any time, any place?" Well, he meant that with Biden. He doesn't want to stick to that with you, it seems. Very scared. Then here is Pete Buttigieg.
Covered earlier in the show, Donald Trump and his campaign have suggested that he may not follow through with the debate in September that had been scheduled to be with President Biden. Now, of course, would be the vice president, assuming she does wrap up the nomination as expected. What do you make of that?
It's extraordinary. Tough talk is this guy's calling card. And there's this extraordinary show of weakness. He agreed to, he said anytime, any place. But more than that, he agreed to this specific debate on this specific network on this specific date. And now he's pulling out. And of course, it shows that he's afraid. It shows that he knows if the two of them are on a stage together, it's not going to end well for him. So this is a campaign that really has struggled to be about anything but Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And I think that's the bigger pattern that you're seeing here, and part of why the Trump campaign is having such a hard time adapting. Think about it, just in a matter of 2 or 3 days, our campaign adapted to literally the biggest possible change, which is a change in the top of the ticket. And yet, within a couple of days, that support consolidated and that message was clear. They, meanwhile, have been flailing in a way that shows they're unable to adapt. And to me, it's not just that their entire strategic apparatus was built around tearing down Joe Biden. I think there's something deeper, which is Donald Trump cannot conceive of a campaign that isn't about the candidate. We're obviously very excited about our candidate.
And I'll stop it there for the sake of time, but it's a great point he's making. Trump's whole MO, his whole strategy, whether it be in the Republican primary in 2016 or 2020 or now, or obviously the general election in 2016, the whole way he approaches campaigns, because this is how he sees himself and his movement, is around personalities. The person he's going against versus him. But when you make your movement, as I've been celebrating us while we were in the tense time figuring out is Biden going to drop off or not, what did I say the whole time? What's beautiful about the doubts people are expressing and a willingness for potential change, and even our candidate, the biggest change we could do at this late date in a campaign, what's beautiful about that is it further emphasizes our dedication to the issues and the outcomes we want, and not any one person. A lot of people said it does seem clear Kamala Harris is the obvious option after Biden. But if it were someone else, we would be making the same case. Because it's about the issues, the policy stances, the governance, the priorities, the values contrasted against theirs, not obsessing over the person and some cult-like dedication to the personality as we see within MAGA. People have told me just recently at the latest rally we were at, Trump supporters tell me that if Trump gets out of politics, they're getting out of politics. They're in it for him, not the issues. And that is a big difference between the two movements. Let me know. It's been a while since I used the side camera because we were in a hotel room for a few days. It's good to be back. Let me know if you, or let me know what you thought of all that in the comments. If you want to get extra content daily, you can do so by clicking the join button below. And if you want to donate to Kamala Harris's campaign, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of this video.